Do you like working hard? Maybe it depends. Do you find you can work hard for hours at something you enjoy, but get bored or tired after like 15 minutes of your job? It's not just you. It's pretty much everyone. Under capitalism, we do whatever we can to make enough money to continue to survive. If that work is unrewarding, exhausting, dangerous, well, we still might have to do it. But in our time, there's another force driving us to work. It drives us to work after work, to go home and work, to give up our remaining time and energy and devote it to our new god, being productive. I'm Chris, and welcome back to WatchMojo.org's pick for #1 biggest YouTube channel ever. This video was brought to you by Bunch of Tanks, the latest game for your phone. If you want to play a tank game, this is definitely one of them. So you came for a video on the relationship among hard work, motivation, and laziness, but the thing is, before we can understand any of them, we need to name the elephant in the room: capitalism. About half my videos are an attempt to understand capitalism and its effects in one way or another, but as it's the dominant economic system in the world today, you can test out anything I say by just looking around. 3 of the main features of capitalism are, to quote Ellen Meiksins-Wood, the laws of competition, profit maximization, and capital accumulation. Let's go a little further. The specific precondition of capitalism, so the conditions under which it can be born, is a transformation of social property relations, property, that generates capitalist laws of motion, the imperatives of competition and profit maximization, a compulsion to reinvest surpluses, and a systematic and relentless need to improve labor productivity and develop the forces of production. By the way, it's okay to go back and read that again and pause and think about it. Our time and effort is a key factor of labor productivity. One of the effects of these capitalist laws of motion is we're expected or compelled to work all day, to commute at our own expense, acquire new skills at our own expense, and generally spend all our time trying to make more money for people who own stuff. Now, who wouldn't be motivated to do that? But you have to at least pretend to want to do it, because if you aren't motivated, you're lazy. Sometimes the word lazy is used fairly. If you've agreed to do some kind of work, like washing the dishes, you should probably do it. If it's shared work, do your share. If you're not washing the dishes is getting in the way of other people who want to use the dishes, it's a problem. And if in this situation you're able-bodied and have nothing better to do but still avoid doing the dishes, maybe it's reasonable for the people who live with you to call you lazy. But you and I know that's not the only way it's used. Devin Price, in Laziness Does Not Exist, says our culture is soaked in the laziness lie. Your worth is your productivity. You can't trust your own feelings and limits. There's always more you could be doing. So you should want to work, because you only have value when you work, and you should never stop working, even if your body tells you to. You don't have to get called lazy. You might call yourself lazy just for taking a rest. The opposite of lazy is apparently productive. We used to use the word productivity just to measure machines or businesses, but given how the economy sees us as machines, it's not surprising the term would eventually be applied to people. If you've ever wondered what's meant by a social construct, laziness is an excellent example. Colonial America relied on the labor of enslaved people and indentured servants. It was very important to the colony's wealthy and enslaving class that they find a way to motivate enslaved people to work hard, despite the fact that enslaved people had nothing to gain from it. One powerful way to do so was through religious teachings and indoctrination. A productivity-obsessed form of Christianity evolved from the older, more puritanical idea that work improved moral character, and it was pushed on enslaved people. This form of Christianity taught that suffering was morally righteous, and that slaves would be rewarded in heaven for being docile, agreeable, and most important, diligent. On the flip side, if an enslaved person was slothful or lazy, there was something fundamentally corrupt and wrong with them. Enslavers made it a point to keep enslaved people as busy and exhausted as possible out of fear that idle time would give them the means to revolt or riot. Even more disturbing, enslaved people who tried to run away from bondage were seen as mentally ill and suffering from runaway slave disorder. By not accepting their proper role in society, they were demonstrating that they were broken and disturbed. This worldview became the foundation for American capitalism. The laziness lie had been born. It would quickly spread to other marginalized people, including indentured servants, poor white laborers, and Native Americans who had been forced into government boarding schools. These exploited groups were also taught that working hard without complaint was virtuous, and that desiring free time was morally suspect. As the Industrial Revolution changed the landscape of the country, with more and more Americans working long hours in manufacturing plants, the laziness lie was pushed even more. The wealthy and highly educated began to claim that poor whites also couldn't be trusted with idle time. In fact, too many breaks could make a person antisocial. Propaganda from that time often claimed that if the working poor weren't kept busy, they would resort to crime and drug use, and society would run amok. Laziness had officially become not only a personal failing, but a social ill to be defeated, and it's remained that way ever since. Now we just police each other, judging others and ourselves as lazy and therefore undeserving of respect or help. But don't worry. Whenever capitalism creates a problem for everyone, it creates a solution you can pay for. Enter the motivation industry. I've gone through a lot of supposedly motivational stuff on YouTube, and I think I get it. The music, the images, the simplistic messages, it makes you want to get up and go for a run. But if they're the reason you changed your life, all you needed was to be told to do the thing you wanted to do. So I'll just tell you for free, you know that thing you want to do? Do it! Huh? But don't do it just because some guy on YouTube tells you to. Because that's easy, anyone can do that, I just did it. I wonder who videos like this are for. It's more than 2 hours long. It's mostly just jacked dudes yelling, which is actually a great representation of the motivation industry. They only have one message: don't give up on your goals. But they word it in 2 hours and 13 minutes of different ways.
I'm talking to you when your personal life lines up with your purpose.
These guys are so used to looking like they're grinding, even their advice sounds like your boss yelling at you. And they end up sounding like this.
Do it! Just do it!
Hang on. Was Shia doing an homage to Chris Farley?
That you're not going to amount to jack squat!
What else does YouTube offer the uninitiated to get us up and producing again? What's this? Why do we fall? Let me guess. To get back up? Haven't heard that cliche yet today. And Andrew Tate. Wow. This was uploaded 6 months ago, which was about 5 months after he was arrested for human trafficking and doing that thing to women, that unspeakably bad thing. He did that. You're so starved for advice, you're letting the most vile people give it to you? And it's the same old advice. Most of the advice of these supposed experts at life just comes back to figure out your goals and work hard, because they don't know you, so they can't give specific advice, so they give the same advice as everyone else, and that's why it sounds correct. All they're doing is making you feel lazy. You can see who wants you to work for them by thinking about who wants you to feel bad for being lazy. Teachers and other motivational speakers tell us things like, if you just work for it, you can get anything you want. with the unspoken corollary that if you don't have what you want, you must not have worked hard enough and therefore don't deserve it. We learn to be people pleasers, scared to say no in case people think less of us. Parents, teachers, bosses, of course, and anyone with more money than you might think they benefit from your hard work. The motivational work artists want you to think you're lazy and shouldn't be, so you buy their books and attend their seminars. What, you don't have a Ferrari, the gold standard of other people's image of success? Pay me to yell at you, and one day you will. Have you heard of the idea among young Chinese people of tangping, or lying flat, rejecting pointless overwork and overachievement? The Chinese government quickly restricted talk of it online and condemned the idea as shameful. All these people want you to work harder because you're working for them. No, they'll insist. I'm saying you should work hard for yourself. If you want to get rich or reach whatever other goals, you'll have to work really hard. We get told that under capitalism, you can do anything, which is so obviously untrue, it only takes about a minute of reflection to realize it. Like, how do you make a fortune if you can't pay your bills? What if you have no time and energy for a side hustle? But if capitalism is meritocratic, where people get rewarded based on what they deserve, then your poverty must be your own fault. Any attempt to talk about the effects of systems and ideologies gets called complaining and making excuses, and as we know from the work artists, there is no excuse for making excuses. I think I'm getting an idea where this so-called hustle culture comes from. A couple of generations of consuming self-help, motivation, productivity media have led us to a point where we feel guilty for taking a break to eat. It's become normal to work hard for the sake of working hard, to act like you're busy grinding all the time because you've got these big goals you're working towards. What is it costing you? Who benefits from your labor? What's more, I don't know if you know this, but hustle, the way we use it, has origins as a racist term used to imply black people are inherently lazy. Hustle, or a lack thereof, was invoked to make an association between blackness and laziness. This idea that black people struggle due to their own failures rather than systemic oppression was widespread. I know, an American institution with racist roots. Who could have guessed it? So I won't call it hustle culture, but burnout culture, a la Byung-Chul Han. Han says, our world today is not the disciplinary society Foucault described, like when people were forced to work under threat of incarceration, but rather an achievement society. Its inhabitants no longer obedience subjects, but achievement subjects, entrepreneurs of themselves. Instead of the dominant message of the propaganda being the threat of violence or hell for not complying, it's a positive one. You can do anything you want, and you're only held back by your imagination. And yet the goals we give the highest priority are financial goals, or somehow related to your value to the market. Achievement subjects are always trying to improve themselves so they can appeal to bosses and clients more, always comparing themselves to the images of success that have been provided them. We feel guilty for not constantly working on our goals and improving our skills and turning weaknesses into strengths. The new human type, standing exposed to excessive positivity without any defense, lacks all sovereignty. We internalize values like, nothing is impossible, hard work gets you everywhere, and you only have yourself to blame for everything that happens to you. So if we don't get what we want, if we lose, the obvious conclusion is, we're losers. And if you're a loser, you're less of a person. An unrealized potential living in the shadow of high achievers. So you gotta be a winner. The only way we've been told how to be a winner, how to get the thing we want, is work hard. As a result, as Han puts it, we carry around a labor camp inside us. But instead of guards with guns to threaten you, which still exist, but more distantly, we're simultaneously prisoner and guard, victim and perpetrator. As working adults, we no longer have the time or money to do what we want, but from every angle we're still being told we can do anything and have it all. With such a big gap between promise and reality, it's no wonder we're depressed, anxious, and burnt out by 25. We're stressed because we work so much, anxious we might get fired, and guilty for taking time off. The price of living under capitalism is your physical and mental health. From price again. Burned out people drink more and have worse impulse control in general, which means they're more likely to make bad decisions like gambling or having illicit affairs. They experience far more depression and anxiety, and burnout can exacerbate the symptoms of any other mental illness they already have. Burned out people don't sleep as well, which means they're likely more irritable and more prone to getting sick. Everyone wants out of capitalism, including people who tell themselves they like working hard and being busy all the time. Everyone wants to stop working for money and participating in what might be unnecessary, boring, or harmful tasks and just do what they want. That's the whole reason most people want to get rich. Same with having passive income streams and living off the interest, which usually mean owning stuff, which usually means getting someone else with less money to do the work and then taking your cut. Ironically, behind the push to work harder is the implied goal that you won't have to work hard anymore. Only when you're rich will you deserve a rest. But I don't just think you deserve more rest, more free time, and more pay for less work. I don't think we should be fighting for a little less work or a little more money for the same work. Not only should you be working less, you should probably be working about 1/10 as much as you are. Look at how work is organized under capitalism. Jobs are created by the people with all the money to make more money for them. Work that pays is work that people with all the money want doing. It's not based on what's necessary, important, or useful for most people. It pays no regard to environmental sustainability if it might interfere with profit. Capitalism keeps us too busy to do what needs doing, like making food, water, and shelter accessible to everyone, or cleaning up the mess left behind by endless consumption. If we didn't live under a capitalist system but a free society, the amount of work we would have to do each would be a bare fraction of what we do at work today. If we share the work, it comes out to much less than we're doing now. People would have the time and energy to do something more rewarding in their communities or for themselves, instead of pointless office work or bulldozing nature so stock prices go up. So can we just end capitalism already? What is the point of motivation? To work hard? To make someone else rich? To work past our limits and overextend ourselves? To appease an angry Puritan God? Hard work is when we turn our time, our sweat, our mental and physical health into more money and power for the people with all the money and power. Less hard work means less money and power for them, and more peace of mind for us. So unless you're just not doing the dishes when you should, when someone calls you lazy, tell them, "Thanks for noticing. I'm doing my part."